So welcome to this addition to video number 6. Because video number 6 was starting to get a little long. So after having looked at the zodiac, after having seen that you can find the symbolism of the signs of the zodiac based on the dynamic of the sky, that was video number 6. In this video, 6 bis, we're going to see that in this celestial sphere, in the dynamic of the celestial sphere, you can see aspects, and we're going to talk about opposition aspects. So I'm not going to go into the detail of aspects or the symbolism of astrological aspects, but opposition means when you have planets that are opposed, when two signs are opposite at a 180-degree angle. So they're in two opposite signs. For example, you know, the archetype is Aries and Libra. They are opposite signs. So in the previous video, I used the word mirror when talking about the signs Aries and Libra. They're in a mirror dynamic. With Aries is a transition from, you know, Pisces Aries, and going from the southern hemisphere towards the northern hemisphere, whereas with Libra you have the opposite. You go from the northern hemisphere towards the southern hemisphere. So two signs with mirror dynamics, and it's very interesting because in astrology the opposite sign conveys a conflict, but it also you know, when it can be resolved, when its conflict can be resolved, it can convey complementarity. So when you have two totally opposite individuals, when two individuals function in a totally opposite way, of course there can be conflicts, because, you know, you're dealing with somebody who's very different from you, and Libra and Aries are totally different dynamics in the geometry of our celestial sphere, so there can be conflict, but there can also be complementarity, i.e. when you look at the dynamic of the sign of Aries and that of Libra, you've got a whole, you've got yin and yang, you've got both dynamics. You know, so you've got perfect complementarity in this process. So here you can see, I mean, all the signs, in fact, you know, if you can take the signs in pairs, and each time you will see opposite dynamics. You know, so that's what I wanted to show, that through, thanks to this sphere, the celestial sphere, the geometry of the celestial sphere, you can find the symbolism of aspects in astrology. So the geometry of the sphere contains the mysteries of the dynamics of signs, you know, and how the signs interact. So to conclude, I'd like to say, you know, because we're going into a little more detail now, you know, we're looking at the geometry of the sphere and the symbolism of signs that result from that. But when the astrologer looks at a birth chart, he's not going to necessarily think of all of this, you know. You learn an awful lot of things as an astrologer, and then you forget everything when you know, isn't it? It's like when you learn to drive, it all goes into the background and you just drive without asking yourself all these questions. And of course it's the same thing in astrology. We're defining the basics, some landmarks in tropical astrology, but for those who are not familiar with astrology, I just like to say that we don't have all this, you know, in mind when we're looking at a birth chart. What you need to remember is that the basis of tropical astrology are not down to stars and constellations, but by the geometry of the sky. And it was important for me to show you that tropical astrology has a totally scientific basis. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you very soon in the next video, which will be dedicated to the astronomical horizon and movements of the sky. We're going to add a few more elements to our armillary sphere. Thank you, and see you soon.